Hare Krishna, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So welcome to our continuation of the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2. We are up to text number 6. Prabhupada calls this chapter Divinity and Divine Service. And we read Prabhupada's, we read the text 6 in Prabhupada's translation and his purport, but we haven't gone any further and studied Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's treatment of it. So that's where we'll continue from where we left off. But first I want to say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So text 6. Savaya Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhuktir Adhoksaje Ahituki Apratiyata Yayatma Suprasidati. Prabhupada has translated this supreme dharma for all humanity, the supreme occupation, in brackets dharma, for all humanity, is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Bhanu Swami translates this a little differently because he's following Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary exclusively. Bhanu Swami says, the supreme dharma for all human beings, and then in parentheses, sadhana bhakti, is that by which prema bhakti to the Lord arises, which is not caused by anything other than itself, cannot be obstructed, and which satisfies the mind completely. So let's just go to when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this, he says, this verse answers the second question of the sages. What is the final essence of all the scriptures? And Prabhupada has said this answers the first question of the sages. Which is, you should explain what is most beneficial for humanity. But then the essence of all scriptures is the second question. Oh, anyway, there's different ways of looking at it there. He said, begins this way, this verse answers the second question of the sages. What is the final essence of all the scriptures? That essence is the highest dharma, meaning the paradharma, for anyone who is a human being, pumsam, savai pumsam, meaning hearing and chanting about the Lord. So he gives it away right from the beginning. That's the highest dharma. And then he says, quotes here from the 6th canto, it is said, etadvan eva lokesmin pumsan dharmaha paraha smritaha bhakti yoga bhagavati tannama grahanadibihi. And his translation of this is, that is the only means for attaining the final perfection of life. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord, engaged in the intensive practice of devotional service. So you could see why he thinks this is the second question, because it's about the final perfection of life here in this verse. Again, dharma paraha for people. He continues, by this statement, the word para, it's in the verb paraha, dharma paraha smritaha. The word paraha, along with the dharma, in the present verse, the supreme dharma, parodharmo. You see, so here we have parodharmo, and here we have dharmaha paraha. So the same words, just different case endings. By this statement, the word para, along with dharma, in the present verse, can indicate only bhakti yoga. Etavan eva indicates exclusion of other processes as paradharma. The essence of scripture is bhakti yoga, by which prema bhakti, yataha bhaktihi, appears. It arises without cause, ahaituki. Now, when we say cause here, ahaituki, what it means is motive. That you are doing it to get something or to have something. That's what's the causality part of it. If you look up ahaituki in the Sanskrit dictionary, it means, and is used this way quite often, as having no motive. So it just something is not that it means because the word hetu, the word haituki comes from, is hetu, cause, but it also very much means motive, what you would like. So when he says mixed bhakti is excluded in this definition, since it has a cause, yes, mixed means bhakti, but you also want liberation even, or you want, recognition, or you want to get second initiation, or whatever you're after. That's a hetu. Pure devotion means that devotion in itself is sufficient. So then there's in quotation marks, but you're really evading the truth here, saying that prema is not caused by sadhana bhakti. So that could be an objection. No. Dharma, consisting of hearing and chanting about the Lord, is called sadhana bhakti. And in the mature state, it is called prema. Both are called bhakti. For it is said, bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya bibrat utpalakam tanum. The devotee possesses a body with ecstatic symptoms by prema developed through sadhana bhakti, and he references 11.331. In other words, bhakti produces bhakti. Bhakti is caused by bhakti, but one is the bhakti in practice and the other is bhakti in attainment, but they're both bhakti. Bhakti is caused by bhakti, nothing else. In the verse being discussed, the former bhakti, paro dharmo, savai pumsam paro dharmo, the former bhakti is the cause of the later type of bhakti, yato bhaktir ahoksaje. So that's what gives you the supreme. Just as an unripe mango is the cause of a ripe mango. Both are mangoes. Two different states of mangoness. Considering one the cause of the other, because of the difference in taste, is simply a conception for understanding the different strengths of bhakti. Though sadhana bhakti and prema are not actually different things, the various states of infancy, youth, and adulthood in one person are actually not conditions of cause and result of that cause, since the person remains. On the other hand, when pots, cloth, and cooked rice arise, the original names and forms of mud, thread, and raw rice disappear. So that's the difference. When he says pots, he's thinking of the clay pot. We didn't have revereware in those days, so here's mud and a pot, cloth, and thread, and raw rice, and cooked rice. So the original names, mud, thread, and raw rice, I don't know what that is in the Sanskrit, but maybe they're different names. They disappear. One cannot compare these examples to bhakti and prema. So that's the first thing. There's one kind of bhakti. It's in different stages or states, but they're not two different things. Bhakti causes bhakti. He goes on, one also cannot say that the famous cause of bhakti is association of devotees, for association of devotees is part of bhakti. It is the second stage as understood from the statement adao shraddha tataha sadhu sangota bhajana kriyaha. This is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where it describes the stages of development in bhakti. First of all, there's shraddha, which is a preliminary faith here in the beginning, just even a sort of interest. And then if that's fruitful, sadhu sangha, then you will associate with sadhus, and because of that bhajana kriya, you will begin to take up the practices of devotion. So this association of devotees, sadhu sangha, is part of bhakti. They don't cause it, they are it. And later it will be said, and now he quotes from Bhagavatam 1:2:16, Shrushusho Shraddhadanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchihi Shanmahatsevaya Vipraha Punya Tirtha Nishevanat. O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva, long A, that's Krishna. Vasudeva Kata Ruchihi. This is the ruchi, the taste for Vasudeva Kata, Krishna Kata, the messages of Vasudeva. How does this happen? By Mahat Seva. Mahat here means the great devotees or advanced devotees. And we'll come to that verse later on in this chapter. He goes on, such things as charity, vows, austerity, sacrifices, and selfless performance of duties are, to some degree, causes of bhakti in sattva guna, practices as an anga of jnani. We always say jnani, but it's jnana. Really, if you want to speak Sanskrit and not Bengali or Hindi or something, jnana. So these are other things: charity, vows, austerity, sacrifices, performing duty without attachment to the results. So these are causes of bhakti and sattva guna, but they are not causes of pure bhakti. So this is where it's an anga, a limb of jnana. Because your motive can, many people who have an interest in something like jnana or liberation, practice bhakti, but they are not interested in bhakti as the end. Bhakti is absolute. It is both the means and the end at the same time. And it's not when you reach the attainment of goal, you no longer have bhakti. It's fulfilled bhakti. So now he quotes from, again, 11th Canto, 12.9, because it is said these are not causes of pure bhakti. Yamna yogena sankyena dana vrata tapodvarai vyakya swadhyaya sanyasai prapnuyat yadnavan api. Even though one engages with great endeavor in the mystic yoga system, philosophical speculation, that's translated here as Sankhya, charity, vows, penance, ritualistic sacrifices, teachings of Vedic mantras to other, personal study of the Vedas, that's Swadhyaya, or the renounced order of life, still one cannot achieve me. So these are not causes of pure bhakti, because it says so right here in the 11th Canto. He goes on, nor can it even be said that the mercy of the Lord is the cause of pure bhakti, for it is none final cause, making one search out a further cause. So if you get the mercy of the Lord, what will you get? You will get bhakti. And then you will go on from there. So it's the non-final cause. One cannot say that the Lord's mercy is absolute without further cause, for then it would mean the Lord is unjust and prejudiced in choosing to give mercy without reason to certain individuals and not to others. So, you can't say why it is, right? So it's just, that's not maybe a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. However, if one says that the cause of bhakti is the mercy of the devotee, it is not so incorrect. So, though the Uttama Bhaktas, the most advanced devotees, do not make distinctions and are thus not prejudiced, one does see the Madhyama Bhakta make distinctions between the Lord, the devotee, the innocent, and the demons. Because Uttama Bhakti sees everyone as devoted to Krishna. In fact, if they're going to teach, they have to come down to the Madhyama platform to make these distinctions. So this is the distinctions. Though the Uttama Bhaktas do not make distinctions and are thus not prejudiced, one does see the Madhyama Bhakta make distinctions between the Lord, the devotee, the innocent, and the demon. Worships the Lord, associates with the devotee, preaches to the innocent, and avoids the demons. Thus, because the Lord is dependent on the devotee, the Lord's mercy follows after the mercy of the devotee. That is the correct conclusion. So the mercy, because if the devotee is there, the Lord is there already. You associate, that's where he lives. Because he now explains this further. But then, how is bhakti said to be without cause, a haitukam, in this verse? Because the Lord's mercy is included in the mercy of the devotee. And because the mercy is included in association with devotees, and because devotee association is an anga of bhakti, anga means a limb, one of the limbs, parts, is an anga of bhakti, bhakti is said to be without cause, since an anga of bhakti causes bhakti. So that this is a causeless mercy. Bhakti causes bhakti. Moreover, he really gets into it, huh? Moreover, the cause of the devotee's mercy is but the bhakti present in the heart of the devotee, because without that bhakti in his heart, there is no possibility of his mercy arising. In all ways, therefore, bhakti is the cause of bhakti. I mean, that's really brilliant. I have to say, this is really far out. From the point of view of bhakti, so that's the point of view we're taking now. From the point of view of bhakti, the devotee, bhakti, the Lord, and his mercy are not separate items. Even though bhakti appears by bhakti, thus being self-manifesting, it does not negate the fact that bhakti's self-manifesting nature comes from the Lord. It's quite interesting, huh? Very nicely done. This bhakti cannot be prevented by anything, apratiyata. This is mentioned in the following verse. That is the one he's quoting here, not the next verse in this chapter. He quotes now from Bhagavatam 3:29-11. Madguna shruti matrena mai sarva guhashaye manogatir avichinna yata gangam baso buddha. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally toward the ocean, that's the last part of the verse, Ganga ambaso mudao. Ganga, ambu, the water of the Ganga flows to the ambuda, to the ocean. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down toward the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows toward the Supreme Lord. That's quite a metaphor. The Ganga's current's very strong, flows to the ocean, and it encourages obstacles. It keeps on going, sweeps it along before it. So this is the example from Canto 3, 29-11. He goes on, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur goes on, Sri Rupa Goswami has also said, Sarvata Dvamsa Rahitam Satyapi Dvamsha Karane. Bhakti is without destruction, though it is the cause of the destruction of obstacles. He's quoting this from a book by Rupa Goswami on the Ujjvala Nilamani. Apratiyata can also mean that this prema bhakti is not contaminated by jnana or karma. By that bhakti, this is in this verse here, that by that bhakti, the mind, the atma, becomes completely satisfied. Yayatma suprasidati, becomes suprasidati. Because of the impossibility of the mind being satisfied with the presence of material desires, it is evident that this bhakti is being discussed without any material desires. So that's that complete purport there, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So now let's go on to text 7. The text goes like this: Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Adhaitukam. Prabhupada translates it: by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So Vasudeva, again this is Krishna's name, his patronymic, son of Vasudeva is Vasudeva, who is Bhagavat, personality of Godhead. Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, Bhakti Yoga being applied here. The word prayojita comes from the verb prayuj, which means to perform or to accomplish. We have the word prayojana, motive, occasion, design, and so on. So bhakti yoga prayojana, being applied here, being performed, being accomplished. And so in the word for word, by rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality Godhead, this very soon, Janayati, it does comes into being. Vairagya, detachment, jnana, knowledge, and this is ahaitukam. The word for word is, and then here at the translation, causeless knowledge. And this is for both jnana, vairagya, ahaitukam. Both are described as causeless. Now the word causeless here doesn't mean what causeless means as having no motive, being disinterested. In other words, when you get knowledge and detachment of it just happens automatically by its own self. You don't do it with a motive to get it. It's actually, of course, caused by the grace of the Lord. But the knowledge that you haven't done anything to get it. You're just rendering devotional service. And then sort of on its own, these other goals, knowledge and renunciation, jnana and vairagya, they just come seemingly of their own accord. That's the idea. Well, we'll see. I'll read Prabhupada's purport now, and then we also have another one. I'll read from a book. I need spectacles to do this. So Prabhupada writes, those who consider devotional service of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to be something like material emotional affairs may argue that in the revealed scriptures, sacrifice, charity, austerity, knowledge, mystic powers, and similar other processes of transcendental realization are recommended. Because here it's just recommending one thing, basically. According to them, these people, bhakti, or devotional service of the Lord, is meant for those who cannot perform the high-grade activities. I mean, when I first had Hinduism instruction from in a university course, which was then, the Hinduism was what the Ramakrishna Mission version of Hinduism in those days. The Karma Yoga is for the active, Bhakti Yoga is for the emotional, and Jnana Yoga is for the studious, the smart people, the smart ones, the intellectuals, right? So that was the idea there, and so they okay. So yeah, these emotional people, you know, and people used to think, yeah, you're jumping up and down on the street corners with banging on cymbals, and you know that's so emotional. You know, there are these American groups. There used to be one called the Holy Rollers. And do those kinds of things, you know, so people thought of us as like these kinds of people. I thought the same thing when I saw the devotees, and then when I talked to them, I was so surprised. Anyway, how sophisticated their theology was, you just didn't expect it, you know. Remember, I had already finished all this coursework for a PhD in religious studies, and so, you know. Generally, it is said that the bhakti cult, and again the word cult here doesn't mean a cult in the one modern sense of the word. It means worship of a certain deity. If you look up in the Oxford English Dictionary, people who are devoted to one particular deity, that's the cult of Athena and so on. So it's not the later meaning of cult. Actually, I noticed the Oxford English Dictionary, they have at least in the what do you call it, the digital edition of the dictionary, they put things that are going to be in the new one, and then they have the modern definition of cult. But it's not otherwise what it means. Do I have it here up on my screen? Yeah. Anyway, get distracted by that. Generally, it is said that the bhakti cult is meant for the Shudras, Vaishyas, and the less intelligent woman class. But that is not the actual fact. The bhakti cult is the topmost of all transcendental activities, and therefore it is simultaneously sublime and easy. Generally, if something is sublime, it's difficult, and if it's easy, it's not worth having. So this is a kind of oxymoron. It does have something with both of these attributes. It is sublime for the pure devotees who are serious about getting in contact with the Supreme Lord, and it is easy for the neophytes who are just on the threshold of the house of bhakti. So it takes you all the way, but you get started, it's very easy to do. It is a great science, and again Prabhupada uses this word science because it is actually, he uses the word science to translate the Sanskrit word vijnana, which means experienced knowledge. Jnana is theoretical knowledge, and vijnana is practical application, and that's the science. And he used this word science. And people were accusing us of hijacking the word, for something. Anyway. It is a great science to achieve the contact of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and it is open for all living beings, including the Shudras, Vaishyas, women, or even those lower than the Shudras who are called low-born. So what to speak of high-class men like the qualified brahmanas and the great self-realized kings? You have to remember, by traditional Vedic standards, anybody born outside of India is an outcast. So that's all of us. The other high-grade activities designated as sacrifice, charity, austerity, and so on, are corollary factors following the pure and scientific bhakti cult. The principles of knowledge and detachment, jnana and vairagya, are two important factors of the transcendental path of transcendental realization. The whole spiritual process leads to perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual. You notice how he includes that here. Perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual. In other words, you don't know everything spiritual, but you know nothing about because you know about Krishna and therefore Krishna's energies. Perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual, and the results of such perfect knowledge are that one becomes detached from material affection and becomes attached to spiritual activities. Becoming detached from material things does not mean becoming inert altogether, as men with a poor fund of knowledge think. Karma means not undertaking such activities that will produce good or bad effects. So karma here just doesn't mean activity, but fruitive activity. Negation does not mean negation of the positive. Negation of the non-essentials does not mean negation of the essential. Similarly, detachment from material forms does not mean nullifying the positive form. The bhakti cult is meant for realization of the positive form. When the positive form is realized, the negative forms are automatically eliminated. Therefore, with the development of the bhakti cult, with the application of the positive service to the positive form, one naturally becomes detached from inferior things and he becomes attached to superior things. Yeah, tasting the Supreme, he gives up everything else. You develop, Prabhupada used that term, the higher taste became the name of restaurants. Cookbook. A cookbook, yeah, the higher taste cookbook. Because you could see once you took prasadam, I give up the other. So when bhakti becomes mature, you lose your taste for what Prabhupada called pale things in comparison with bhakti. Similarly, the bhakti cult, being the supermost occupation of the living being, leads him out of material sense enjoyment. That is the sign of a pure devotee. He is neither a fool, nor is he engaged in the inferior energies, nor does he have material values. This is not possible by dry reasoning. It actually happens by the grace of the Almighty. In conclusion, one who is a pure devotee has all other good qualities, namely knowledge, detachment, and so on, but one who has only knowledge or detachment is not necessarily well acquainted with the principles of the bhakti cult. Bhakti is the supermost occupation of the human being. And I guess we're going to have to break here, and again I'll have to read Vishwanath Chakrabarty's interesting commentary to this verse also. But for now we can see if there are any questions or comments.
Yes, if you are on Facebook and you have a question or comment or just anything that struck you during this class, go ahead and type it into the comment section there. And if you're on the phone, you can press *6, and that will unmute yourself. Press *6 to unmute yourself and ask a question. And there's also the chat box available on Ravindra Svarupa's website. That's RSDasa.com. Just as we're waiting for the questions to come through, there's a lot to chew on here.
Yeah, there certainly is.
Between verse 6 and verse 7 and the different commentaries. But one topic that comes up in relationship to this idea of causeless mercy, and you were talking about causeless in the terms of like unmotivated, right? Like, is I've heard some devotees take issue with Prabhupada's use of saying that Krishna gives causeless mercy, and the question that they raise is that it can't be causeless because otherwise it's just random, and then what kind of God is that just kind of randomly gives mercy to one person for no reason and another person not the mercy? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur seems to speak to that a little bit when he says, one cannot say the Lord's mercy is absolute without further cause, for then it would mean the Lord is unjust and prejudiced in choosing to give mercy without reason to certain individuals and not to others.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we understand causeless mercy from the Lord, and that term that Prabhupada so often uses?
Well, to me, the main idea of causeless is that we didn't do anything to deserve it. We didn't, so impress God that He's going to give us mercy. So to me, the main part of and the other thing about God is this almost unfathomable generosity of spirit. And He cannot force Himself on other people because there's a certain amount of freedom. He can't, you have to choose it. But He generally gives all facility. So Prabhupada has said things like, you take one step to Krishna and He takes so many steps to you, or something like that. So that's my understanding of this idea of causeless mercy. I mean, the ahetuki also can mean unexpected, and unexpected. Yeah, just you don't know. And I think the other thing that happens is that ability. See, if there are advanced devotees and they've done a lot of service for Krishna, Krishna appreciates them very much. Naturally, He wants to do something for them. They don't want anything for Krishna. They just want to serve Krishna. But then when they feel sorry for people, and they will say to Krishna, please help this person, that's when He does it. So, in a sense, it's caused by the mercy of the devotees, but even that mercy itself is just the overwhelming feelings of compassion that devotees have for others.
A few things about that. I can get at least some extent of this idea of causeless mercy, in the sense, it would be correct to say that, like, even if somebody did all sorts of service perfectly, whatever it might be, at the end of the day, even though any reciprocation from Krishna is still Krishna's mercy, He really doesn't have to give that mercy.
Yeah.
But the fact that He does, that's causeless. It's not transactional.
Yeah, it's not His duty to do. Yeah. It's always an exchange of feelings between the devotee and Krishna. That's really what's going on. And
it also seems like the mercy is so often there, but it's more about, are we going to take it or not? Would that be correct?
That's true. Mm-hmm. Lord, give me chastity, but not just yet.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you kind of already answered this, but maybe you can quickly just respond. He said, relating to 126, where I find the translation saying such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. My question is, what is the meaning of the word unmotivated in the context of this text?
Yeah, that you have no material desires or for that thing.
He also asks, related to 126, where I find your spiritual master saying in his purport that devotional service leads one to eternal, blissful, and all-cognizant life. My question is, what is the meaning of all-cognizant? My understanding is that there is only one living entity who is all-cognizant, and that living entity is God. Any help?
Well, a devotee ends up knowing whatever Krishna wants him to know, but I just think that that when there's the spirit soul itself is Sat Chit Ananda, so one of those things is Chit, pure knowledge. So by all cognizance, it doesn't necessarily mean you're omniscient like God, but you do know an awful lot. Mostly you know about God. Is there no limit to it? Well, you're not God. Krishna's knowledge is, strictly speaking, all of these things, but you know as much as God wants you to know. And if you need to know something for your service or for your advancement or for helping other people, God will make sure that you have that facility.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu asks, he says, thank you for this wonderful and in many ways inconceivable topic. Well, here's a comment. He says, I have also heard His Holiness Bhanu Swami discussing the topic of the cause of bhakti as being the mercy of the Madhyama Adhikari devotee. It was very encouraging to hear this, especially given a common objection and perhaps misconception that, quote, pure bhakti can only be granted by the Uttama Adhikari devotee. Good point.
Thank you.
Maharidi Prabhu, he has a question. He says, Haribol, please accept my humble obeisances. It was very inspiring to hear about the role of sadhu sangha. If the sadhu sangha is not the cause of bhakti, does it mean that those who have taste for sadhu sangha have already practiced bhakti before?
Could be. Previous lives, Prabhupada did say that, as a general rule, devotional service is a continuation from a previous, some degree of something. And the initial sadhu sangha may be very brief, but still make an impression somehow or other. Just to the Prabhupada described the word he uses was agyata sukriti. Like, Jesus, if you're a charitable person and you give money to poor people, and then you see a devotee and you give him some money because he looks like he's poor too, or is it begging actually? That becomes devotional service. It's not just mundane charity. So this is unknown devotional service that can start things going for you.
A few comments here. Devadarana Devidasi says, such a great class, shloka. Every time I hear it, I am newly informed. Thank you so very much, your grace, for your time and energy. My humble obeisances to you. My appreciation and love for His divine grace always increases when I hear these beautiful verses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
And Gaura Shakti Prabhu says, thank you so much for the class today, Gurudev. I love the notion that bhakti causes bhakti. It's so sweet. There's a prayer hands emoticon, a smiley face emoticon, and a heart emoticon.
We'll have to get some special bhakti emoticons. I don't know.
Vishal Sharma says Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mandaleshwari Devi Dasi says Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Thank you so many O's much.
So thank you so many O's much. Okay, that's good. Good way to read it.
And I think that's it for today.
All right, so then we'll pick up with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on, we're on 7, huh? I'm going to try it anyway. We'll just do the best we can to have both at the same time, but we keep getting split up at that. So we got something to look forward to. Anyway, having a good time. Hope you're all enjoying quarantine or whatever. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.